Welcome to Lift Your Leg. This is Monique Anstee from Victoria, BC, author of As a Dog Thinketh.
And Jill Brown from Calgary, Alberta, who is the bag lady.
And
Bag
this is Matt
lady.
with start to finish dog training from Cherokee, Alabama. So today is podcast number 3. Like, do we get an award for number 3?
You get nothing.
It's
We
like
get-
no, I think it's like an anniversary. What is year 3?
Maybe it's the third date.
I think
Oh.
that's the time that you break up.
It might be. So, like, the third podcast today, super exciting. We've had some really great feedback from the first 2. Monique, you were a rock star getting it on Apple and on the other platforms. Forgive me for not being able to remember all of them. So, like, super proud of the work that you put into this, Monique. Like, it's definitely been a labor on your side of love, so we really appreciate that.
How sweet. Thank you.
Good girl, Monique. Good girl.
Yeah, like, winter this year, winter's been brutal. Like, it's our first winter out of Florida, and we've had like -2-degree wind chill and
Oh,
7 snow.
Don't even, Maddie.
Look, I
Let's
get
move
we're
on.
in Canada, but it has definitely lent well to being able to do stuff like this. So, like, there is a silver lining there.
Okay.
I agree. I've been snowed in. I haven't been able to train Harry, so I've had lots of time.
Oh my
So
God.
let me ask you guys, before we get started, what has been going on with you guys, like, over the last week and a half. What have you been doing with your business and things like that as we've been snowed in? I'm actually right now in a hotel in Evansville doing private lessons for the day. Today, tomorrow,
In the hotel room?
No, I did them at the club, but I'm back in the hotel.
I have been realizing that I need to take technology lessons and that I've become a dinosaur.
It keeps building faster and faster and faster. But I do want to send a huge shout out to my friends at Evansville. My lessons this weekend were fantastic, and I go to Louisville tomorrow. So super shout out to all the people that took lessons. I love you guys. Thank you. All that stuff. So anyway,
my week has been spent trying to keep warm because I work outside during the day.
Oh.
And I have a ton of bags that I'm working on.
Are you gonna make me a new bag, Jill?
Pardon me?
I need a new article bag.
Well, you had best message the bag lady and put in your order.
I think everybody should order an article bag right now, so Jill gets like crazy like behind.
Oh my God, yes, that would be great because I'm already, I think, 11 behind right now. But yes, bring it on.
Stop it, children, focus. Today we are starting our first series, which is going to be Reactive Dogs. So this is the first one of our Reactive Dog part, and it is your dog is your mirror. Ultimately, you are as reactive as your dog. Sorry, I couldn't read my writing. My brain got stuck. Matthew, you have to start us off just because you can talk about anything. Off you go.
So reactive dogs, like, we're seeing a rash of reactive dogs, not only in pet dog clients, but also in competitions where, dogs are getting attacked at trials. Judges are getting attacked at trials. We're seeing a ton of people message us for board and trains for dogs with reactivity issues. You had asked us to talk about the dog is your mirror, and I think that freedom allows dogs to release some of their demons. I think that when you can take a dog out and run them and do the things that good dog training provides a dog, those things are less. But I think over the course of the last 20 years, I think that that's progressively changed to where it's more about making everybody feel good, and the dogs are not getting the freedom, and then they're not getting the exercise or their needs met, and then it turns into more of this stuff.
Or the exercise is the wrong type of exercise.
Right, like, it's like
structured walks can build the demons rather than release them.
Right, and it's like, inflatable inflatable blow up balloons and stuff like that are now taking the place of a good mountain. It's like, look, go to the mountain. Like you don't need peanuts and Cracker Jacks and things like that to make this happen. So like I definitely think that there is an element of that. But I do believe that a lot of dogs mimic their owners. So like, when you say dogs are their mirror, I do believe that is true. In the dog community, we're not known, and I label myself in this as well. We're not really known for being the easiest to break into. So like, if you are around a bunch of snarkiness, your dog could pick that up pretty easy. And I do believe that happens. So like, if you're slower and more steady and methodical, your dog's probably more slower and steady and methodical. And if you're super hyper like me, your dog's probably going to be super hyper like you. Not all the time. Girly is definitely not me, but
And why is Harry so sweet and loving?
that is you. What you went right for Monique's jugular.
Did.
Not really. It was a compliment because I am so sweet. That's why.
Yeah, that wasn't what I was getting at, but okay, you run with that.
So
Next
Monique,
okay, go ahead.
Tell us what you think about this, because on you really have. I always used to joke about calling it like fluttery fingers and crap like that with you. Like I'm like, Monique, I do not understand your fluttery finger analogy, But like you really do hit it on the head once we break through your vernacular. Like I understand you more now than I ever could, because I'm not like, hey, explain that. I don't understand that. You talk on your feelings on this for a moment, because I'm anxious to hear you and Jill's thoughts on this.
Oh, I could talk about this topic forever. This is my passion. So I think one of the main things is dogs do as we think and not as we say. So you can be telling your dog, you be good now, sit, whatever. And if you're thinking, do not attack that dog. Dogs don't hear in the negative, so all they're hearing is attack that dog. So whatever you're dreading in the back of your mind, whatever you're thinking, that is what your dog is going to go and do. And this is not reactivity related at all, but it totally proves my point. And I was sheep herding with Pippa years ago with Karen. And I sent Pippa on this giant outrun to go get her sheep. And she was heading in. As she got close to the sheep, she was going in tight to the sheep and she needed to give them more room. And my instructor at the time told me to focus on a clump of grass that was far out to the left, so I focused on this grass, and Pippa kicked out and went wide around this clump of grass, giving her sheep space. There were no commands. I didn't say anything. My dog was so far away from me, like half a kilometer away, and she was able to literally just pick up what I was thinking of, kicking out around that grass. So if my little border collie could do that, which is half a kilometer away from me, imagine what your reactive dogs are able to do when they're standing right next to you and you're a tense ball of nerves.
So do you
Who wants to say something after that?
Do you think then, so you're saying what you dread, you create?
Yes.
Does that mean maybe I actually don't like my dog's foraging?
Well,
you keep rewarding it, so you do.
But you also reinforce.
I must be dreading it if it keeps happening.
Well, maybe there's more to it than that.
Well, I'm sure I do. I'm sure I do go.
We don't only get what we dread. We also get what we build.
Reinforcement builds behavior, Jill. Let's just be real. Like you definitely are reinforcing some foraging. One of the things that happened today in lessons, and I won't name names because I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable, but one of the things that did happen today,
except for Jill, we can make Jill uncomfortable.
Yeah, of course. So this girl, it was her first lesson she'd ever taken, and one of the things she said to me was, "I'm surprised my dog didn't nip at you." And I said, and like I took this dog's leash and I was like showing her the games that we were playing. We were working on directed jumping, and I was showing her how to do some freeze corrections for healing and just fun stuff. And the dog was super into it, and it was a very nice dog. super nice dog, a mix that was, and it was her novice A dog, and they really had a good little partnership. And when she said, "I'm surprised the dog didn't nip you," I was like, I didn't read that on her at all. I was like, I would not have guessed that she was a nipper. I said, but I said, this goes back to, pressure and release sometimes. Like some of these people, when they tense up, they're putting undue pressure on the dog and it becomes like a pressure cooker. Then like, they're like, they explode. Body language is subtle. So like, if that subtle body language starts to change, not all of our dogs read that correctly. And keeping in mind, like this happens in competition as well. Like people twist and look at their dog in healing, and then when they get in the ring, they straighten up, and then the dog falls apart because the dog doesn't know how. It's like the picture's wrong. They were never reinforced for straight up healing, and that kind of stuff happens. So like it's definitely something to see. Like when people are pressure cooking their nerves about their dog, I just took her and played with her. And I released pressure on her the way that I would release pressure on Ray. And I think that was one of these moments where it's like, look, she might nip somebody that's clueless, that holds pressure on her and doesn't release it correctly, but she wasn't going to nip me, even read that she would have thought about it. That was the
I
difference.
agree.
I have a question with that though.
Sure.
If the owner is thinking the dog is going to nip you, she's surprised she didn't. Explain why you think the dog is now taking more of your thoughts and feelings versus the owner who's standing back thinking, please don't bite him, please don't bite him, please don't bite him.
Well, do you remember when I know you guys attended Sylvia's seminars, and do you remember when Sylvia would like take a border collie and she'd like move her hands back and forth and just keep the dog's mind on the movement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Instead? So like that is what I've adopted that to a point where like it's just natural for me to do that with an animal. So like when I had food in my hand, I was tossing the cookie between my hands and the dog's like focused on that. And like I'm breathing normally. I'm not tense. I'm not making direct eye contact. I'm not walking into the dog's spatial bubble. So like this dog, I'm not leaning over the dog. Like these are all things that this dog's like, I'm watching the ball and the dog's watching the ball. Like I'm going between my hands with food. The dog's watching me as I'm doing the same thing. Interestingly enough, like I think that the dog didn't have time to think about it. The dog wasn't in my head at that point.
Okay.
The dog was.
And I think it happens in that first initial crossover, and you manage to get the dog through that part. After that, you're generally okay as long as you don't offend them.
Do you ever find there are certain people that just are like a magnet for a dog to bite them?
Yes.
And dogs. I've had a dog
What?
that every dog that came up to her wanted to attack her. I think it's, people and dogs can be like that.
Yeah,
Isn't that what Matthew said?
No, he said
do you
people
think
want to be attacked.
so? Like, I have an uncle, and this happened to me before I was really training dogs. Like, my other uncles and my dad and them would walk into a yard, and there'd be a dog there, and that dog would ignore them. But the minute my uncle walked in, the dog's like fixated on my uncle. Well, that happens to me too. Like some dogs, they either love me or they hate me. Like there's no between. It's much like the dog community.
I was gonna say much like us.
Yeah, it's much like the dog community. So like, but like I find that to be, there are certain people that dogs like feel more than others. And so like I think that's like when we talk about the dog being your mirror, you get one of these people that's like that, then the dog could take that on. Like I definitely feel that.
Well, I think it depends on the individual dogs for sure. One of my instructors is quite dominant, and she can take a lot of dogs and have them do anything. People are struggling with an exercise, and she's got them doing it in no time. There are other dogs, if they're a stronger dog and they take offense to her strength, then there's no way she's getting them to do anything.
Like I know that sometimes, like
Silence. No.
I think that sometimes, like when I play with a dog, like you can see a dog wince, and like I tell people all the time, like your dog feels your, for lack of a better term, your aura. And so like if your aura screams, I'm a raging, monster, and I will kill you, then you can be a lot softer with a dog than if your aura was like, oh, I love everybody, then you're probably gonna have to be a little more tough. So like
Yes.
like I feel like that plays into the reactivity piece. Like, is the dog learning, is your aura strong enough to shut down reactivity, or is your, like, and again, aura is a lack of a better term because I do not have a better term for that.
Energy.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to sound like Caesar Milan, but like I was trying to use a different word. But yeah, like,
Let's
yeah,
use presence.
your presence. Like I tell people, there's a lot of great positive dog trainers. Those people tend to have a really strong presence. You can be more positive if your presence is strong. Like I said, I can play with a dog and make one wince. I don't need to physically correct a lot of dogs. But somebody with a softer presence, a dog may ignore, and they blow them off. So they might have to be more physical with the dog. Like I think like Susan Garrett's got a great, strong presence. She's got a strong presence. She's a lot of person. That definitely plays into the control that she has on her dogs. Not saying that she's not great at reinforcement and shaping and whatnot, but it definitely plays a role in the fact that her dogs respond to her so well without.
Are there any top trainers that don't have a strong presence?
I don't know. I haven't met a lot of them.
I don't be a top trainer without a strong presence.
I'm racking through them in my head, and I think everyone I've worked with or encountered that is a super dog trainer, they all have a strong presence that they know how to control.
Yep, I agree. I don't think you can be successful if you're not a strong trainer.
Strong presence, at least, yeah. It's
all right. Yeah. We're going back somewhat on topic. So one of the things I had was people need to learn to be better poker players with their body, and I do believe that our tone of voice, our voices are the thing that we have the least control over. Therefore, first learn how to use your body right, relaxing muscles if you're feeling tense, being aware of what your body is doing. And while you're doing that, shut up, don't speak, because your voice is going to give you away, especially if you're feeling nervous.
Silence is golden.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking back on a couple of lessons and clinics and things, that is such a true statement. Like, it's like, look, I need your dog to not hear you talk and think through the silence. Like, it used to be you always wanted to proof for like things, because your dog was going to encounter a bunch of distractions and stuff. So like you were okay with having a louder voice, and your dog had to deal with that because the venues were so big and they were so loud. And now like a lot of places are like, with COVID shutdowns, and with obedience entries on the decline, like obedience trials like a morgue. So like it's like quiet and tense, and so like these situations are places where if your dog doesn't know how to handle your silence in them, it can be really rough.
We were just talking about this today, weren't we, Monique?
This morning, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things to do, well, maybe this says a lot about me, but is parking at a dog park, sitting in my car with my dogs in my car, and just watching people pull up and watching their body language before they let their dog out. And just by watching the human get out the car and how they control themselves, I know what their dog is going to look like before they pull their dog out. It's an exercise everyone should practice. It says a lot.
Is that a test for you? you get to see how much you really know by whether the dogs come out the way you think they're going to come out.
I don't think I'm ever wrong. So people aren't good poker players, so people say it by their body language when they get out.
True.
I think it's very, very rare that someone gives the wrong body language. But if all the people struggling with their reactive dogs went and did this, they would be able to see what it is that they are doing that is maintaining this reactive behavior in their dogs.
Absolutely.
Don't you think that like part of the reason that we're seeing so many reactive dogs is because people are lying to themselves? Like they don't want to
Expand.
We're dog trainers, and like we're around dog trainers and even hobby competition people. Like we're around these people that understand that we are modifying dogs' behavior. But the minute a dog acts out or acts like a dog, everybody in their world shuts down because none of us want our dogs to be affected by this bad dog. So, and we won't say bad, we'll just say reactive because like there are some dogs that are bad, but like I feel like this in this conversation about reactivity, like the dog community as a whole, like we all want to play dog trainer, but when a dog starts acting like a dog, like everybody's like wanting to duck under the covers. It's like, oh, that dog around, or I don't want this dog doing this. And it's like there's a 50-50 part of me. Like I get that you don't want this around your dog. You don't, and I get that. I have smaller border collies. I don't want my dogs eaten. But at the same time, like it's almost like a scarlet letter on these people, like when they have a dog that's got a little bit of reactivity, where we're like nobody wants to help them through it because nobody wants to have the discussion about what it takes to help them through it.
I'm fortunate where I live that there's I could think of one other dog trainer here, Mia, who is very supportive of trainers with her reactive dog walk. And I think we have established kind of a community here too that is very supportive to reactive dogs. So it's different in different parts of the country. But I am going to say, though, there's flaws to it being accepted and everyone being very helpful and understanding with it, is that there's very little pressure to improve too. It's accepted. It's accepted as a forever versus a moment in time, and we'll help you train through it.
Well, go ahead, Jill.
I think you also have to accept a certain amount of reactivity.
I agree.
Get your head around it. I was out for lunch with a friend of mine who has Rottweilers, and we had one of her Rottweilers and one of my Goldens, and we went for lunch on a patio. And somebody came in. You were allowed to have dogs on this patio, so we had our two. And someone came in with another dog at the end of it wasn't a flexi, but it was probably a 10-foot leash. And it came right into my dog's face. It was a Golden. I'm immediately worried that she's going to react. And she did, which was okay. It was acceptable because this dog came blasting into her space, right into her face. But at that point, I was mortified because my Golden just did this. And my friend with a Rottweiler said, "You need to have a Rottweiler. Because you having a Golden think they should be perfect and should take all kinds of garbage from other dogs. Whereas a Rottweiler is expected to snap and say, 'Get out of my space.'" Once I realized that was an okay reaction for her to say back off, I was like, she's still a normal in quotations.
That would be, you can do that with a Golden Retriever. Like a Golden Retriever can make those kind of mistakes and nobody really bats an eye. But the minute the Rottweiler made that mistake, it is cursed. So like,
but the difference is this friend of mine doesn't care. She's like, "Yeah, I got Rottweilers, but your dog was just inappropriate, and my dog told him off." Wasn't a huge thing, but
it wouldn't be that way in the States. Like in the States, if a Rottweiler reacted even appropriately, everybody would be like, "I don't want to be around that dog." Like there's there is a fear of certain breeds, which is unjust. Like if a dog's gonna bite you, like let's judge it after it bites you. Let's not judge it before.
Yeah.
A lot of people put judgment based on the breed. It's like pit bulls, they get a bad rap. Like I know lovely pit bulls. I
Yep.
also know crappy pit bulls.
Yep.
But I have students with wonderful Rottweilers. Like my friend Stephanie has this incredible, wonderful Rottweiler. Monique met him in Illinois. He was wonderful. On the same flip side, I know a lot of crappy ones.
Yep.
And that's, they can be a well-bred and still be, like, look, this is probably not, you might be able to keep this dog in conformation. But as far as like taking it off lead around other dogs, probably not a great idea.
Yep.
Like you have to be smart about stuff because and you have to be your breed advocate. Like I said, I think
That's not a crappy Rottweiler, though. I don't think they should be around other dogs, depending what context you're speaking of.
right.
Like,
And this is also
from there, we go into Johnny German Shepherd, Harry Malinois. Like, they're not the same as Rupert.
no, they're not.
Nor should they be.
Exactly.
And I think Johnny and Harry are saints, but they're still a German Shepherd and a Malinois, and I have to be realistic within their breed.
Right. And so
Yep.
like I think that a lot of people that have big working breeds that can handle big working breeds are honest about what their dog is, and they're honest about what they're capable of, and they know how to handle that. There are also people in those same breeds that lie to themselves and say, "Hey, this dog's great. Oh, he just wants to play," and all this. And then so that person that's in denial,
He's friendly.
yeah, that person that's in denial is actually, creating the pressure cooker to lead to reactivity,
Yes.
because the dog knows that they're not thinking about that they're like blocking out the fact of what this dog is capable of. And so like
Yeah.
like I hate to see any breed, Malinois, Dutch Shepherds, Pit Bulls, Rottweilers, Chow Chows, Dobermans, whatever. I've been bitten by way more Border Collies than I have any of those other breeds. But like, those dogs get a bad rap because when it's bad, it's real bad.
Yeah.
And so the owners of these type of dogs, they have a responsibility to be honest and say, look, my dog's being like this. I'm trying to keep it out of my head. I need help with this. Can we set things up so that I can deal with this behavior? Can we set it up so that I can reward him for being around other dogs? Can I set it, can you help me with control? Like these are things that don't get set. And so like kudos to the people that own big working breeds that are doing those breeds justice.
Yep, for sure. We have some lovely Rottweilers in my area. It's not a breed I ever thought I would have, but I'd have some of these.
They're built to heal too. Like they can heal beautifully.
What tips do you guys have for people who are struggling with a reactive dog? Knowing that the dog is mirroring them, what do they need to do to change that? I can start. My things are, your brain will go the same speed as your feet. Therefore, slow your brain, slow your feet. As you're walking past, stop if you need to. Make sure you relax your shoulders and always keep your eyes on the victim. I prefer to call them victims. It's more fun that way. And keep breathing. It's amazing how many people don't breathe. Focus on your jobs. It gives your mind something to focus on other than what you're dreading.
Yeah, I was going to say keep moving. Don't speed up, but just keep moving. Don't freeze. Freeze and dread what's about to happen.
And
do something. Keep moving.
If your dog is about to misbehave, the calmer you go, the more likely you will be able to just snap him out of it. Loosen your shoulders, loosen your muscles. And loosening your shoulders.
At that point, maybe don't loosen your grip on your dog or your grip on the leash.
Keep the grip on your leash as it was, but if you drop your shoulder, you will relax their leash so they're not feeling restrained in any way. And more times than not, I can just be like, Basil, this way, and easily get the dog out of it.
Yeah. I think that's a huge thing. Even the way you said that, Basil, this way.
Yeah.
Instead of Basil, this way.
Yeah.
The way that you're conveying things kind of tells the dog how to react. You are
Exactly.
calmly telling him this way, he's going to calmly come with you. You raise your voice, he's going to be like, maybe I should go this way instead.
I would say that
Matthew?
I would say that to learn to correct what your dog's thinking about. So like
Yep.
I think that so many people don't practice active anticipation. So like they're not anticipating what the dog's thinking, and so like
Yeah.
we get further down the red zone before we're at a spot where we're recognizing what's happening, and then we're too far gone to stop the train wreck that's coming. So
Yep.
I would say active anticipation would be a really good thing. The other thing that I would think of would be to find a professional in your area that specializes in reactivity and do your homework. Like, you don't have to live with this. Like, it's not something that can't be messed with. You can fix it. And I would
In
say,
almost all dogs, you can fix it. I agree.
I
Okay,
Or
think
manage it, but manage it to the point where it's easy, not difficult anymore.
like
going back to our first podcast, how do you know when you have found that trainer that can actually help you with reactivity?
again, I think that you're going to have to look at their students, people that are saying, hey, I have this problem dog. Don't go off their testimonials on their website. Don't go off their Yelp reviews that they've begged all their friends to give. You want to see real results.
Go
like,
watch your class.
yeah, say, ask them, say, hey, can I pay you a consult fee and can we talk? Can we do a look at my dog and decide if they're just going to jump right into training? Like, I don't know anybody that is really good that does just a jump in the training. Most people are going to book a consult. Let's evaluate the animal. It might be above my pay grade, to be honest. Like, I might say, you know what? I'm not good with this type of dog. I need to refer you to my friend Monique. Like, that's how real dog trainers work. Like, we don't believe we have all the answers. I know there have been a couple of dogs that were above my pay grade, and I will consult with other dog trainers about them.
For myself, I know what kind of reactive dogs I love working with and what ones I don't enjoy. And the ones I don't enjoy, there's another trainer in town, Mia, who is super with that type of dog, and I send them to her. So again, I'm referring out what isn't my favorite to work with. So same thing. Matthew, you said something about hard staring, and I want to go back to that. When you're walking along and your dog starts hard staring, I always think that of as they're telling you what they're going to do next. If you choose to ignore what they've told you, that is kind of implied consent.
Yep.
So it's up to you in that moment to let them know whether you want that or not.
There's this new deal, I guess it's been around for a couple of years, but where people are doing like see it. Like, they're like, look, are you afraid of this? Look at it. And it's like, why are we doing that? Like, you're asking the dog to hard stare what's afraid of. So you're just begging for this dog to go over and do something bad. Like I have never found one dog where see it has made a real good difference. In fact, there's always been a lot of backlash from see it.
Oh, I've worked with a lot of those dogs, and I do believe this actually came from Ian Dunbar. It was they look at it, and then you open up the hand and feed them from the hand when they look back at you. But I have worked with so many pointy-eared dogs that have worked out. I glare at it, I look back and get a cookie.
Oh, and it happens all the time. And like, when you listen to the positives that come from that technique, I would be like, whoa, there's a bunch of bad here too. Like, just because we can make a behavior look friendly and nice doesn't necessarily mean that it's not contributing to the problem. So like,
I think that might be one of those things that's super useful if you do it for a week or 2 weeks, but there needs to be a very short time span on it before you're moving on to the next stage.
Or with a really weak dog. But like, you get a damn Rottweiler.
Even the weak dogs doing it, they learn it. If they're pointy-eared and clever, they learn, and it actually reinforces and maintains their reactive behavior.
I've just not ever actually had a lot of success in A, using that technique, or B, not seeing a lot of problems with people that have used that technique. So like, it's like one of those things.
I agree.
Why are we doing this? Like, this is not the end all be all. Like, like I think that there's a lot of things that we have to be careful with newer techniques when we don't always know the consequences of them.
I
Especially when we're
agree.
talking about reactivity. Like you're talking about a dog that is probably feeling pressure from the leash and and is scared of the other dog, or is just overly confident. Like you don't see the overly confidence as much as you see the I'm attached to a leash, I'm trapped, and I can't deal with this dog. I'd rather get it before it gets me. Like you're seeing there's so many dogs that are just not confident, and we're attaching them to leashes, and we're not making them learn loose leash walking anymore, and they're on harnesses, which exasperate this problem, and then we're doing see it on top of it, and it just becomes this big mess, and it's like like
So would you guys equate see it to something I've seen actually locally of a dog being walked on harness, as you said, and goes apeshit at a dog on the other side of the road? And all the handler is doing is throwing treats onto the ground.
I don't even
There's
know
no
what
correct.
sense.
There's no correction. There's no indication of what I want you to do. Whereas see it, at least they're coming back to your hand, the way
Well,
Monique
in
described it.
in that, if your dog does something and then gets a reward for it,
Yeah.
they are more likely to do that behavior again in future similar situations. That is the precise definition of positive reinforcement. So
That-
you have just reinforced
yeah.
that dog for being reactive to other
It's
dogs.
barking. Like I roll
I agree.
and throw food when they bark. Like like how I taught barking to Gurley. Like I rolled the garbage can, she barked at it, and I threw food at her, and guess what? She continued to bark at it.
Yeah.
Like I mean, that's what I wanted. And it was how I captured the behavior. So when people
Yeah.
are like, "Oh yeah, I'm throwing food to distract my dog. I'm doing a food scatter," it's like, "Oh dear God."
I know that, and that's what I was thinking.
If you want to do your food scatter, you need to do it before your dog responds, not once he has. That would, in theory, work with the logistics of the idea.
Or
But doing it once they have, you actually just reinforcing bad behavior.
Or get them to turn away, like you said, in the same as your hand see it. They're checking
I was
in
just
with
going
you.
with the method because I wouldn't do
Yeah.
that, but yeah.
No,
yeah.
but yeah, when they turn around and check with you, then throw some food.
Have any of you seen Denise McLeod's About Face?
No.
No.
McLeod? You don't mean McLeod?
I don't know. It was said McLeod. I didn't read it. It was said to me, so I'm assuming that's what it is. But, I'm not a smart man, so like
Oh, we're so mean.
this needs editing.
McLeod, she's going to have to respond now.
Yeah,
Please respond, Denise, please.
Yes, please respond and tell me that I said you're incorrect so that I can be like, ha ha ha. No, but there was a situation that I ran into where somebody had been using this on a dog that was nervous, and it's when they told me they were using it, it sparked me to do a little research on this technique, and I actually found it to be an interesting idea. Instead of see it, it was the polar opposite. And this trainer in the UK has had a lot of success. Now, I'm not endorsing this trainer because I don't know her. I've not trained with her. I have not read the book about this, so I just want everybody to take that.
Get it.
Is this is Denise McLeod?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, just making sure.
I think there's a book. I think there's a book about it, but I have not read the book. But I did do a little bit of research about it back a couple of years back, and it seemed like something that I would try to do, but it also seemed like it could be a recipe for getting bit. So I was like, exactly when are we doing this? So I think that would be something that if I was dealing with a severely reactive dog that I may explore, because
What did she tell you to do?
No, she didn't tell. It was basically where you just took the dog and turned it physically by its collar, both hands on the collar, where you turn the dog around, and said,
Oh, I
knock it
used
off.
to do that.
Yeah, like it seemed super simple. Like it didn't seem anything overly complicated. But like I said, I was doing a lot of reading about it because somebody didn't want to use a pinch collar, and I thought they needed to use a pinch collar, and they were like, "No, we do this," and so that's what made me start researching it. And it has, I felt like it had some merit for
I
reactivity,
did that for many, many years in my growl class, like many, many years.
and that's where this
And
person that was in a growl
and
class.
then I stopped doing it recently. In my latest growl class, I completely moved away from it and got these dogs way, way further ahead. But I mean, I did do it. It did get me results. I prefer what I'm getting now.
What did you do? What are you doing now?
I just got kind of crazy, and now I just let them all off leash and start with it there. Because by letting them off leash, um, I deal with the owner's worst fears right up front. So then the owners can let go, and then I just have to train the dogs in the next 11 weeks. So it's way
Monique,
easier now.
can I talk about your brilliant like controlled pack walk? Like I really loved that you were using the halter. We all know what a halter does to a dog. Like the halter,
T,
yeah,
the
the
head
halter,
collar.
yeah, the head collars. And you had it on a little tiny clip so that when the dog postured, it got the correction, and it was automatic. It was just incredible the way the halter was attached to the leash by this little thing. So then you have this dog that goes to posture and it gets a correction, because we all know that those head things like send dogs way down. Like you're not getting the same dog with that thing on that you're getting when it's off. But like I thought that it was brilliant of you to do that, to show the dogs that they could be out. They don't need to posture. Like all of these things were just so brilliant when I was up there in Victoria with you. And
Can't even remember that.
you had like this pack walk going around your Japanese
Yeah.
garden, and I loved that. Like all the dogs were off leash. You had people there watching the dogs and reading the dogs to make sure nothing bad was going to happen. But a couple of the dogs had these halter heads on and these little clips, and when they would posture, they'd get a correction and go on about their merry way. And I was like, this is freaking brilliant. And so like I've adopted that with some of my reactive clients. Like when we do pack walks with my own pack, I put them on a halty on a little tiny clip. And so like when they posture, before they escalate, they tend to posture. When they posture, they get a correction on a device that shut dogs down.
It's self-imposed. You're not attached to the leash. It's just
I'm not attached to the leash, no.
attached to the dog itself. And when they posture, it corrects them.
Yeah, it
Wow,
was super
cool,
brilliant. Yeah. I totally give Monique credit. When I saw that, I was like,
it's brilliant, and Monique doesn't even remember it.
I don't.
It was a Rottweiler that had one on at your place, and that's how I remember it. And you're like, okay, let these dogs off, and I'm like, oh my god, there are little dogs and Rottweilers together, and this is going to be a disaster.
Sounds like we're picking on Rottweilers.
No, I know we're not picking on Rottweilers, but
not at all.
It just happened to be a Rottweiler that had this thing on. And I watched the dog go up to another dog. He started to posture, and the halty corrected him. And he's like, okay, I just got to move on. And I was like, it's brilliant. I'm like, she's crazy and brilliant all at the same time. And so like, I was like, that was one of those first times for me where I'm like, that could make sense. Cause I remember in a seminar that Terry Arnold did, she was like, I don't use a halty head because they send the dogs down. The gentle leaders send the dogs. They send them to a place that I can't work them at. Most dogs they do. And so like when you take that tool and you made it self-correcting, I was like, this is what I'm talking about. This is what, like, for me, everybody knows me as somebody that likes a pinch collar. That's what I love about a pinch collar. Like it can be so self-correcting where I don't have to be involved in the correction. And I like that. Like, call it lazy, call it whatever you want, but I mean, I like that. Then it's not my relationship on the line with my dog.
I love natural consequences where things happen that I'm not a part of. They're so perfect. Yep. They really are. Matthew, you said something that I didn't understand what you were saying, so I'm going to ask you about it. Body language can be subtle. Too much changes you. What do you mean?
Yeah, if you are training your dog one way and then you panic. And I go back to my first experience with Gurley. Like, Gurley, the first 6 months of her life, I did nothing but positive clicker and motivation. And she got out one day, and she got out and she would not come back. And she was running off, and it terrified me. And like any pet person that we've ever known, the dog goes running down the damn road and you're screaming. Like, you're like, hey, 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 because your adrenaline's pumping and you're scared. And the dog's just like, deuces, I'm out. And when I finally caught her, she had never had a hand on her. Like, it was all hands free. So so when I grabbed her the first time, like, she thought her world ended. She was so soft and pressure sensitive that the first time that when I just grabbed her collar, she was like, oh God, I can't handle this anymore. And it's because I had changed so much from who I was when I trained her, and we were all happy and loving and cookies and kumbaya. And then when she gets out, I'm panicked and scared and strong, and like I'm huffing and puffing, and I grab this little collie, and she's like, "Ah, my world is ending. He hates my guts." And it's like, that was so big of a change between who I normally was with her and who I was in that moment, that it
So
it, it literally set me back a year.
don't you play with your puppies, like throwing them in the air and stuff like that?
I do now, but with Gurley, like, it was at
Okay.
the height of, positive only had to be the way that you did things. And I was bound and determined that the first 6 months of her life, I was going to raise her with no corrections.
I
Well,
Like,
and
I
did that
thought,
with my Irish Terrier, Hilda.
I think back then we thought that picking them up and throwing them onto a bed, they would look at as a correction. So it was all lovey-dovey stuff.
Why would that be a correction?
Well, but back then I think that's how we looked at it. Like, the dogs would take that as a negative. Now we're like, no, roll them over, throw them, pick them up, throw them to Monique. Hope she catches them.
Oh, maybe not that, because yeah.
But you know what I mean? It was life. Life was pretty. Everything was just
Dull.
positive. There was nothing dull. Exactly. Now it's like there might be weird stuff happening that they're not really sure how to take it, but it becomes a super positive, fun thing, and they
I
become
had
stronger for it.
I would never, with Gurley's first couple of litters of puppies, I would never have used a vacuum around them or anything. Because I was afraid I was going to ruin them for the rest of their life. This last litter of puppies, I was using the blower to blow out my building, and they were in there, and I was like blowing them. I'm like, and they're like, and at first they were scared, but after 20 minutes of being, they just can't be scared anymore. Like, I just flooded them with it, and they're like, okay, I love the blower. So like, it was like, things that I wouldn't have done back then, I'm more willing to push a little bit. Like, I don't want to wait to start teaching corrections to puppies. Like, I want them to learn them immediately. I don't want to lie to
I
them about who I
I
am.
don't understand that. What do you mean teaching corrections? Why
I
would you
think
correct a puppy?
because they do bad things. They
And I
they
think
they do bad
But
things.
they don't know yet. It's not bad. They just don't know. You have to show them.
but it's still
But
a negative that they're dealing with.
yeah, it's
At
like, I don't want you to
first,
chew on an electric cord, because if you chew on an electric cord, you could die. I don't want you to,
But wouldn't you just Okay, so tell me what you would do if they were chewing an electric cord.
I would go over there and I'd take it out of their mouth, and I would be like, hold their muzzle, and I would say, hey, knock that off, until they backed out of my hand. So I'd hold the cord and their muzzle in my hand, and I would back until they backed off the cord themselves. And when they backed off the cord, then I would give them something else. But like, if they're chasing my chickens, like, no offense, but you're not allowed to chase my chickens. You're not allowed to chase my sheep. You're not allowed to do these kind of things. Like, it's just not. There are what I call cardinal sins in life, and some of those cardinal sins, from the very beginning, I'm going to chase you off my chickens. I'm going to apply spatial pressure to you when you do things like this. And again, we're not talking about big nasty corrections. I think everybody gets that in their mind. A correction can be walking into their space. Like today, a lady took one step towards her dog. The dog started licking and avoiding and going all. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's enough. Back off. And they're like, what do you mean that's enough? I'm like, did you not read the dog? Like, you got to read the dog. That's who's important here. So, like, I think that puppies need to learn their boundaries as quickly as possible. It's like, don't come through my doorway. Like, I teach that from the beginning using spatial pressure. Hey, stay out of my doorway. Don't come in my kitchen. Don't go out my gates. Like, you don't cross a gate unless I give you permission to come out of it. That's just stuff that needs to be taught to them. And so, like, I used to be like, oh, I'm not ready to teach that because they can't handle pressure now. But now it's like, they need to learn to handle pressure. Sorry about it. Like, now it's like, don't pull on my leash. Like, I'm kind of over leash walking.
Okay, here's my next question attached to this. So you've changed a little bit in the last few years since you've moved this house and your last house. Of your dogs that you're raising this way, how many of them are getting to be the competition dogs that you want them to be?
I think that Ray was raised this way.
Ray was Ray was the old way.
No, she's had corrections since she was a little puppy. All of them, like all of them.
Was Ray born in your first Florida place or your second Florida place?
She was born in the first Florida place.
Okay, but life changed in the second Florida place. So what dogs have you had since then?
Well, all of them at this point have been the same dogs. Like, it's been Rascal and Jewel. Rascal's gone now.
Still first place.
But she was the last litter in the other place. So, like, she came to the place, and like I said, but even then, like, the further I get into herding, the further I understand more about pressure and release. And what can be taught through pressure and release. So when I'm watching top trainers do things with their puppies early, like, we're talking about, by the time some of these dogs are 10 months old, they're running open trials, which is incredible. The only way that happens is that they start to understand pressure from the beginning. So, like, when we talk about, like, little Queen, like, Queen is so easy. It's all been pressure and release. Her entire life has been nothing but pressure and release. It's not been food. And she's a started sheepdog. She can do a 150-yard outrun. She's very useful chore dog. She's not strong enough.
Can she stand up to a ewe with a lamb that's telling her to go away?
I've never put her in that position. Like, I don't intend to put her in that position myself. So, a couple of puppies that we've raised this way that we've sold to other people, because we do that. Like, we raise puppies and sell them to people. Have went into their new homes super confident and super ready to learn, and they already understand corrections and they understand those kind of things. I think we've trained a lot of dogs for other people that were young going this method. It's just watching so many dogs around this country what is lacking and being able to rectify it in your own dogs. Like, and again, when we talk about reactivity, I told you I don't like the idea of feeding border collie puppies on things that I don't know what they're thinking. And Gurley was the quintessential, sacrificial lamb for this. Like, I did everything with food and none of it made her stronger. Like, literally none of it made her stronger. What made her stronger?
Food does not make them stronger. Food is just a tool. It does not make them stronger. Us as trainers can make them stronger.
But we're seeing a rash of people believing that the way that they're training is going to give their dog confidence.
No,
and that
it won't.
Gurley learned confidence when she learned to duel me with a pool noodle.
Exactly.
She learned confidence when I let her bite me and I didn't get all over her case for communicating with me the way that she wanted to communicate.
Pippa learned confidence when she was brave enough to steal a sandwich off the coffee table.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff that is
Important steps for chickens.
I think I got hit with a riding crop when Sizzle jumped up to grab a treat out of my hand and got my thumb. And I
Who
went to
hit you?
you. I went to correct her for it, and you're like, "Don't you dare!"
Oh, okay. Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like I said, when getting back to the reactivity piece, I think that there's a general lack of control, and
I
I think
agree.
we didn't
And
see that.
freedom both. It's the lack of freedom that's causing it. It's that people are so in their heads with so many training ideas that they're trying to process and understand that that's making them anxious messes.
Well,
And
look
then
at
the
the
lack
next.
of control.
And
This is
it's kind of a catch-22 because rules allow freedom, but when you put the rules on, then you're labeled whatever, a bully, a thug, whatever. I would rather correct my dog for not coming when it's called and be able to take it out and let it run and get its feet moving, as Monique likes to say, cover ground. But when you correct them for not coming, then you're labeled by a bunch of the other groups of training people.
I've
well.
accepted I have many labels and I embrace them. I'll at least have nice dogs at the end of it.
I have
I
many
think.
labels too. I don't know if they're related to my dogs.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, I think I do believe that one of the things that we're seeing so much of right now is that, like, even in people, like, you know, we have more technology and more knowledge than we've ever had in any time in history, and yet people now are more anxious, more
Yes.
depressed, more stressed out than they've ever been.
More
Like,
medicated.
things that are supposed to be knowledgeable and easy become what used to be simple. Like, training your dog used to be simple. Keeler had a 12-step program. Like, back in the day, like, that was what you did. And, like, now it's gotten so convoluted and so hard. And I think that that's creating this. My dog does all these bad things, so I'm going to do nothing because I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I'm not skilled enough to do it. I'm afraid to admit that I have this dog with a problem. And like, I think that there's a part of people that get attached to that part of their dogs. There is some Munchausen type syndrome where you like the dog that's aggressive. You like the dog that has the unsolvable problem. Um, like, I think that's happening a lot too. Like, as
I
people
think for myself, that's a small percentage of my clients. I do have that, but it's not the majority. The majority do want a solution and are trying, but there's so much information out there. So they learn from me and then they're reading the internet, which counters everything that I say. Then they go to their pack walk somewhere else that counters everything that they read on the internet and everything that I said. So they have so much conflicting information going on that it just makes them a mess.
Yeah, and I
More
think, again, more knowledge is not, or more access to opinion is
is
not.
not good.
It's not
No.
good.
Just because you read it
And
on the internet doesn't mean it's right.
yeah, and I think that that's happening a lot and creating some of this reactivity that we're seeing, because people get even more anxious when everything you're reading is, you should never have to correct a dog, and it's like, then you see these
Yes.
people that are saying this and the dogs look horrid, and it's like, but I don't want my dog to look like yours.
Science has proven that you never have to correct a dog, therefore, why are you?
And that's
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and it goes through the same on the opposite side. So, like, like, again, remember, in our first episode, one of the things I said was, do you ever feel like you don't fit in?
Yes.
On the opposite side, it's like, you see all these people that have dogs that are robotic and flat and not, I want a dog to be inspiring. Like, that doesn't always equal precision, but I want a dog to show joy and look confident, and I like a flashy dog. And so, like, I get a lot of flack sometimes from a lot of trainers that, hey, you're not showing your dog right now. It's like, but I don't want my dog to look like the majority of the dogs out there. So like I'm gonna put more work into this until I'm ready to provide a product that looks incredible. And
I don't,
I don't get to make that timeline. My dog has to make that timeline.
I don't
Um,
understand the whole, he did this by 6 months, he did this by a year, he did this by 2 years. That makes no
yeah.
sense to me. The,
There's
I
a
mean,
lot of breeders. There's a lot of breeders putting a lot of pressure on people too, that I think that is also contributing to some of this, because they're like, we want titles on the dog by the time they're a year old. I had one of my students that has 2 of our dogs. She went to a rally trial. The dog was like 8 months old. I'm like, what are you doing here? She's like, oh, I'm showing. I'm like, the hell you are.
yeah.
It's like, I don't know who told you to do this, but this is a really bad idea. He's hormonal, and one really bad experience here could be, we could be done. Like, get him out of here. Like, stop that. And then you've got some really great trainer that takes an 8-month-old dog and walks into a ring and gets a 200 in novice, and then everybody wants to do that.
But
And
But
it's like,
show me that great trainer's dog when it's 6 years old. That's what I want to know where it's at.
But some of those trainers, some of those dogs, and some of those trainers are able to do that.
they are.
At
There
6 years old, still get the same?
Some of them, yes. The majority, maybe not. But I don't think it should be a rush to be able to throw that label out there that my dog got this title at this many months of age. Go in
Yeah,
when
because
your dog is ready and see and go from there.
like, because and I don't know if you guys feel this way, but every male dog that I've ever owned around the age of 18 months is going to try another dog. Like, they're going to try one. Like, I don't know why, but like, I can remember Rascal, who had the best temperament of any dog I've ever owned. He was phenomenal. Like, you know, you trust him. You could leave him in the pen with lambs and go to town. Like, he was fine. He loved other dogs. Male dogs would attack him, and he would lay on his back and just wait for them to get off of him. But I can remember with him being about 18 months old, he came out of my truck and he jumped on top of my friend Susan's old pointer dog, and it was so fast, the old pointer dog just whipped his tail, and it was the best thing that could have happened to him. But every young male dog is going to go through this. I have found. Now, maybe I'm unique, but do you guys feel that way too? Like, they're gonna
Mine
try.
haven't. My latest ones haven't. But I think I've had so many powerful male dogs now. I think when I was back when, I think every one of my boy dogs peed on me at that 8-month age. And I haven't had that happen for a long, long time. So
I would lose my mind.
I think I've grown as a trainer now to stop that. So I think now with my boys, I'm not seeing that challenge, but I think that's where I am currently. And just as I say that now, my next dog is going to be righteous of that age.
Yeah, well, I've never had a dog pee on me, but like, I'll be honest with you, like, that would be mortifying to me. Like, I'd be like, what?
I would lose my mind. Well, honestly, unless it was a girl, then I would probably laugh. But a boy, I'd lose my mind.
Why are you being so sexist?
I don't know. I don't know. I think I don't know. I just laugh at the girls with the pushiness. I don't know. Prada tried to hump me and I was like, "Are you joking?" And she walked away all embarrassed. If it had been a boy, it might have been a different outcome. I don't know. Everybody's stunned silent now.
We should wrap up. Any closing thoughts, people?
Have we covered everything?
I think so.
I think
we could talk about this forever. So
yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where I think I bet you there are a lot of people that listen are going to have their own comments, and we'd love to hear in the comment section, you know, what your thoughts are. Please feel free to read the show notes. Monique, you're going to put show notes in, right?
Yeah, sure.
So
Yeah,
don't forget to do
sure.
that. Don't forget to do that. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow and share and do all the things that everybody wants you to do, so that way we can continue to have a podcast that is fun. And again, we are still working on like Patreon type things where you can support the podcast. So we'll let everybody know about that when it gets there.
Let me throw
Thank you,
one more
everyone, for listening.
hang on.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me throw one more
Fine.
thing in there. When we're talking about our reactive and crazy dogs, I think it's really important that we need to accept who they are and what you have, and move forward. Moving forward will be possible. Trying to change what you have at a core in a dog is just going to prevent any kind of improvement. Once you accept who they are and you work with that, then you can
Move forward.
move forward and improve in what you have, but don't think that you're going to change the dog at its core.
You have to accept who they are and embrace who they are, so that your relationship is good.
Yep.
And then from there, you make the best of who they can be.
Yes. They might not be perfect. They're likely not going to be perfect, but they're going to be
They
the
will
best
be
that they
perfect
can.
for you.
They
Yeah,
can be the best that they can be. Yep.
I agree.
How come this sounds like a Hallmark movie?
No, the Hallmark. Well, oh, wait a minute. I was going to say the Hallmark movies always have the same 3 actors.
Hey,
And
here we are.
And the same subject line. Oh my God, we're a Hallmark movie.
No, you guys are Hallmark movies.
I
Y'all
would
over
like
here.
to point out that Jill has cussed once and swore once during this podcast, and
Did
my
I
mouth
really?
has still been clean.
I
did
did
not.
not. And because I hate cussing in a podcast, and when I did it, I was appalled at myself, and so I had beat myself up about it. And I want to sincerely apologize to our listeners for the 4-letter drop that I made, and I will try
That
not.
one was deleted. They never heard it.
Oh, they didn't.
Say it now,
No.
Matthew. Say it now, Matthew.
Okay. No, I've listened to
Trap
so
me
many.
into
Of
it,
these.
Jill.
I've listened to so many of these. I thought I heard it. Well, cool. I'm glad I didn't do it. And today I purposely avoided the word that I wanted to say.
And Jill is the first. Jill is the first to be on air.
What did I
Not me.
say? What did I say?
I'm not going to repeat it and be a second.
Saying it so that
All
you can
right.
be part of your club. We don't want to be part
Thank
of your
you
club.
for this lovely evening and this podcast, you two.
All right. I'm going to go eat chili. See you next Tuesday.
Sounds
Bye.
good. Take care. Bye.
Bye.